Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep the Mining podcast. And we have a returning guest who pitted way back in December 2019, which is episode 57. So over 200 episodes ago. Auryn Bebek is an entrepreneur in the private and public mining exploration sector. He has over 20 years experience with a strong ability to finance, monetize and advance exploration assets into the development stage. He's on a number of boards and more recently co-founded Copernico Metals, which has also split Auryn Resources into three companies, which is Fury Gold Mines, Torq Resources and Tier 1 Silver. So he's here to give us an update on everything that's been going on in the last few years, plus talk about, I suppose, the junior market and the finance markets to date. So that's welcome Auryn to the podcast. How you doing, Auryn?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on. Great to be here.
No, and I appreciate you coming back on. Like I said, we spoke 2.5 years ago now. So obviously a lot of things have happened since then. So I just wonder if you can just give us a quick overview of yourself, your career, and then we can go into talking a little bit more about the companies that you're involved in and the exploration space. And those that are listening, you can also obviously go back to episode 57 when I first spoke with Auryn to get some more information and see how things have developed in the last 2.5 years for Auryn Resources and the other associated companies.
Yeah, thanks. Well, first off, I've been doing this for 24 years, roughly, in the business. I started as a investment advisor or stockbroker, and I was buying mining stocks during the dot-com boom back in 1999, 2000. And that's very important for what's going on in the world today with crypto and the current mining market. But soon after being a broker, buying a lot of penny mining stocks that went into the double digits in terms of dollars, I went to work with the guy that found 6 major mines around the world, and I sat with him for 2 years. He was my teacher, PhD geologist, remarkable discoverer. And then I met a gentleman, Sean Wallace, who was working with another group that did the same thing, but they actually went ahead and built mines as well. And Sean and I got together in 2005. We got together in 2005, and we went out and go do what our mentors did. And we formed Keegan, found 5 million ounces of gold in Africa. The stock went, from pennies to $9 per share during the discovery. And then I moved on to do Caden with Sean, and there we sold Caden in 2014 to Agnico Eagle, again from pennies to about $360 per share. And we took shares of Agnico that doubled after they bought us. And that really was the first 2 major wins on our belt as a group. And then we continued to be more aggressive, go after bigger things. We formed Auryn Resources, which raised over 150 million from 2015 to 2020. And we wanted to go find, the kind of mines that would move the needle for the bigger companies, the 10, 20 million ounce gold discoveries or equivalent in scale and size in copper. And it formed, we found 3 different metals, silver, copper, and gold. And we decided, in 2019, 2020, that it would be wise to split it, because we're major shareholders, to split our company into 3 and try to segregate those opportunities so they could be, silver focused or gold focused or copper focused. And that's how we created Tier 1 Silver, Fury Gold Mines, and Copernico Metals, which formerly was Sombrero Minerals, but we've changed it over to Copernico Metals. Where we sit today is in a very interesting position because, as you know, market timing is everything. And I personally think we're in the transition phase from bear to bull market for juniors and for mining equities. The fundamentals are extremely strong, whether you look at inflation, very importantly, production cliffs, increased demand due to electrification for the base metals. It's a tremendous opportunity, but the prices and the sentiment is so stagnant and flat or negative, or it has been for some time. And it's not uncommon to see this from a bear to a bull market, but what caught everybody, including myself and many long here before me, by off guard is it's taken longer. Probably a 3-month turn is taking about 9 months to turn. And so it looks horrible. When things are down, it's a psychology business investing. When things are down, nobody wants to look at them or buy them, but that's where the opportunity is huge. And if you had me on the show 5 months ago, I'd be here saying, hey man, it's a huge opportunity. You got to find these things you like and own them. And so what we've done as a group and what we're doing is we have one of our companies beyond the three that I mentioned. It's called Torq Resources, that made a discovery this summer, and the stock's actually going up, and it's actually performing because a lot more holes are being drilled to see if that discovery keeps growing, and it has some other good things going on with it. So we've learned that you can perform in this market if you're finding something. It's not about what you have, it's about what you might have. And so that's kind of the mentality across our companies, is what might we find? That's going to draw the excitement. That's where the performance is going to come. And that's probably the hardest thing to do right now because of previous mines being found around the world. All the easy ones are arguably been found.
Yeah. Well, before we speak about some of the companies, what would you say is the turning point when a lot of these commodity prices will start to make a move? Obviously, you mentioned it's obviously behavior, investor behavior, but what else can make the whole I suppose all commodities start to make that significant increases in their price?
So gold is the best leading emotional psychological investment. You know, the demand in base metals is perpetual, and that is a very strong, slow market that takes time to go up, and it stays up for a lot longer. Gold comes in waves, and when it's on, it's like a light switch or like a school of fish. If you scare them, you know, just it goes like almost instantaneously. So I think you really got to watch gold, because that's the one that Monday we could wake up and the markets could be flying, the price could be flying. And what you want to watch with gold is you want to watch interest rates, you want to watch inflation, you want to watch monetary policy in the US. We all know the midterms are coming up in the US elections, and there's going to be a lot of politicking going on, and there's going to be tug of war through the markets. So for me, I'm personally waiting to see who takes it, and I'm Canadian, so I can plead the fifth, even though I'm in the US as we do this interview. I live here part of the year for the good weather, but where I see it is, I see that watching the Fed, when they start easing, if they start printing more money, you know, the dollar has been quite strong, very strong for the last 6 months, hitting record highs to certain extents. And I think, you know, it can only stay up for so long before it starts to work against the US. So watch the dollar, watch US fiscal monetary policy, and watch how things are evolving, because at some point the theme's going to change from tightening to easing, and that's where the dollar could come off and give metals a chance to get their momentum. And you'd likely see short covering come into the space pretty hard at first. I think every mining company, equity, junior, big company is shorted. And I think that gets covered first. That's your first lift that gives the energy with the moving gold price or metal price. And then people start to pay attention to the sector. But in the end, 2025, you know, I'm going to use copper here for an example. We go from a surplus to an actual deficit globally. And we all know that everything's going electric. So there are bull markets coming, whether people want them to be there or not, in the commodities. If you talk to the major mining companies of the world, we have a lot of interactions with several of them across our group. We get into a lot of feedback where they really need growth. And what happens in a bear market, the big companies divest of all their explorers, and they focus on fixing their bottom lines and the production and tightening their bottom lines. And then when the market starts to come and there's money and capital available, it's a bit more challenging for them to ramp up and go find the projects and explore them. And that's where our companies come into place, is we explore and the big guys mine it, and that's how it works.
Yeah. Just wanted to be, obviously we spoke just over 2 years ago, and obviously a lot of things have happened then. So I just wondered if you can just run us through, obviously, what you've done with Auryn Resources, and obviously split them into 3 companies: Fury Gold Mines, Torq, and Tier 1 Silver. So I just wondered if you could just run through each of them.
Yeah, sure. So we split Auryn, and as I said before, it was 3 different commodities. You know, first off, we're big investors, and we treat each one of our companies like large investors. And that's very important to state, because I don't do what I'm doing for a paycheck. You know, I take very modest amounts just to be polite and make sure that my taxes are a certain way, but I put more in than I'll ever get paid from any of my companies on salary. Auryn was a market cap between $100 and $300 million based on some big swings we had. One in South America called Sombrero, and that is now in a company called Copernico Metals. And then Committee Bay, which is in Fury Gold Mines. And then Tier 1 Silver was a complete surprise. robust silver, 1 to 300 kilograms of silver in 80 samples in a huge area, trying to find the source on one of the biggest copper belts in the world. So a really exciting project. So we split those three. Fury came to market. It did well at first, was trading in the dollars, $2.50 a share, roughly just around there. And then it slid down with gold, anti-performance. COVID hurt us more than it helped us in the sector. It's really the audible that no one could have planned for that really disrupted general trends and general directions. So we had a big slide, and now it's cheap. It's trading around 50 cents a share, but it has over 1 million ounces in Quebec. It has another 1.5 million ounces in Northern Canada. It has about $40-50 million of shares of another public company. It's in a very strong financial position. It's well funded with a lot of gold, and it's pitching deep value with huge upside on some of its targets. So, it's in a penalty box like every other gold junior, but we think that this fall, a lot of results from the summer will start coming out, and that could really turn it around. In terms of tier one silver, we came out, the company valued at $250 million valuation without a drill hole into this property. And the reason why is even stronger today, but at the time, it was because of what I said, 80 samples running 1 to 300 kilograms of silver taken in 20 square kilometer area, which is exciting. It's huge, but you have to find the source of all that. And at the end of the program, we drilled our best holes. We started to drill the kilogram plus rock underneath the surface. And then furthermore, some of the largest copper mines in the world exist on a trend, on the coast of Peru there. And so there's a lot of indications that we're starting to see that this could have a silver and a potential big copper discovery to go with it, which would be the ultimate home run. Where that company's at is it's silver sensitive. When the price of silver is down, it's down, and there's nothing we can do about it. So it went from I use Canadian prices, about $1.70 or 80 down to about 30 to 40 cents. And now it sits around 35 cents a share, but we're completing a lot of work this summer. We've done a huge sampling program, getting ready to follow up on the discovery we made last year, and really looking forward to a big turn in the silver price to really, complement the potential discovery on the silver side. And at the same time, if we find a copper mine here, the mines next door have 100+ year mine lives. I mean, they'll mine for 100 years. That's how big they are. So major mining companies are very intrigued by it. We're very intrigued by it. And that's another deep discount one. Copernico Metals, which I'm the CEO of, was Sombrero Metals before. We changed the name because we're going to do more than just the Sombrero project. But the Sombrero project is an analog to Las Bambas, or we believe so. We've seen a lot of evidence indicating the kind of scale and potential grade that could be there. And we've waited, about 2.5 years to get social access there. And we're in the final stages of getting that, hopefully in the next month or this quarter. And then we get to go drill possibly, another potential Las Bambas, which is the 9th largest copper mine in the world. I just got back from Ecuador, and with the model for Copernico Metals is I want 4 or 5 sombreros in the company, including Sombrero. And there is real opportunities in Ecuador. I got to meet the government, got to meet the vice minister, and their number one export is going to be mining here shortly. And that country is about 20 years behind Peru in terms of discovery. It's been underexplored. It's very fertile. There's more to be found than has been found, and it's very low risk to find something. And it's a company that's opening up, with companies like BHP and Bebek starting to invest into that country quite seriously. So with Copernico Metals, we're public, but we're not listed yet. We're going to put in 2 or 3 more pretty substantial projects, likely in Ecuador, to complement Sombrero. And our goal will be to repeat success for investors, meaning if Sombrero is that big and it hits, we would sell that, keep the rest in Ecuador. If one of those projects succeeded, we'd sell that again. And we would try to sell our company 4 or 5 times and give chance for shareholders to be paid massive dividends through the sales repeatedly. But truly, it's really the start of the most exciting adventure. And the hardest thing to find in this business are major discoveries, the big ones, and that's where you make all the money. We have one other company, which is the 4th company in our group, called Torq. And I bring this up because it's performing as I'm talking to you today. And the reason why, well, first off, we waited 11 years to acquire the right projects. And that's the patience we kept. And we waited, and we got into 2 big projects in Chile. One's called Santa Cecilia. It's already got a huge drill hole in it, 900 meters of about 0.5% copper. It's next to a big mine, and it's barely been drilled. That one is about to get social access so we can drill it. But the real story at Torq has been Margarita. Margarita has been drilled earlier this summer. We hit about 100 meters of a gram of gold and a percent of copper, and we're now waiting for the next results to come. Does that thing get wider? Does it get deeper? And that's where the real investment curve gets exciting if that continues. So there's some speculation going on, but those two events could be extremely catalytic. I highlight Torq because it's one of the best performers right now in the entire junior space, alongside of probably 4 or 5 other companies, because we are finding stuff potentially. And that's where tier 1 is about to get into. That's where Fury is about to get into in the 4th quarter. And that's where I'm going to come out pretty aggressively with Coppernico when we start drilling there, either late this quarter, early next year as we become public. So that's kind of the window of what we're doing. And that gives you an idea of how many things I'm involved in that give a lot of, concept of what's going on or understanding. And lastly, I'd say that when we're quiet in the summer and the markets are bad, we're not on the lake with the kids, we're working. And for me, it was chasing down major projects in Ecuador, and the guys at Torq were getting ready to advance this big discovery. Tier 1 is taking what they've learned and they're increasing their confidence to the next phase of drilling. And Fury has been drilling all summer, trying to follow up on where they think that the major gold could be found. So our sector, or our group, has been really, really busy. It's not reflected into our share prices at all. And there's a lot of potential for that to happen, but we are all going to wait, no matter if we want to or not, to a certain degree, to see metals improve or the sentiment improve a bit here in the near term. And I think September, if you look at, and this is a wise thing to do as well for anybody in the space, type in gold seasonality, go to Google Images, and just look at what times of the year gold's up and down, look at the gold price, and tell me if that's following it. Because for me, it follows it almost to the hour if you look at the right gold seasonality chart. And that's how you can kind of predict of when you should be aggressive. August is a great buying month. September is a good selling month, late September. November, during tax loss, is a great buying month. February is one of the best performing months for gold and gold stocks of the year. And so you get that kind of runway to very quickly educate yourself on some of the waves of when it might be good or bad.
Yeah, I've heard that before as well. Especially during the summer months, the stocks tend to go down. Which obviously that's what we've seen, and then coming out in the summer months is when they start to go up again. And I can't remember whether you said that or someone else said that, but I have heard that.
Yeah, I've invested off that theory a lot, and I've done extremely well in active markets. I've followed it, and it's true. And I mean, certain patterns of industry don't change no matter what, and they don't go down as much in good markets, or they go up more in better markets, right? During the phase where they should go down or up. But it really helps explain the movement of the market if you're not an expert that hasn't done this for 20 or 30 years, right?
Yeah. When will there be an opportunity for sort of new investors to invest in Coppernico, and when will it sort of be listed?
So Coppernico has a moving target for a listing date. It's predicated off the access at Sombrero or the access to another big project that we put into the company. And what we're looking at as a timeline right now is the earliest it could be listed at the late September, early October. And at the latest, I would say end of January in 2023. And that's just with so many moving parts, acquisitions, and some things that are out of our control. So for us, we will need to raise some capital in September. We are publicly listed. We have a website. We will advertise what we're going to raise and why we're going to raise it. And, it really will determine the price, and the terms and everything else will be determined off of, did we get Sombrero access? Did we add in some Ecuadorian assets or not? And then we will look to trade, 30 days after that raise, or we'll push it to January if we don't have enough, going on with the narrative by then. We want to come back in a very strong market. A minute ago, I said November is a good month to buy, meaning it's a softer market to be in. So we're going to time that very cleverly so that we can come out and perform right out the gate. And we want to be able to drill some of these major projects the day we do it. So, the best way to follow Coppernico advancements is join the actual subscriber list, info@copernicometals.com, and just follow the progress. There'll be a lot of information in the next 30 days about how that's going to unwind. Why I would encourage everyone to do that is because the scale of what I'm talking about is huge. It's not big, it's huge. Sombrero's gotten the attention of 10 of the largest mining companies in the world. And this truly is a history making, exercise that we're trying to undertake with Coppernico and leverage Sombrero to find some other big ones in Ecuador, because that's where some of the biggest discoveries happened recently. And as a share price, performing, one of my investments was into a company called Auryn Resources back in, I think this was in 2009, around then. And Auryn, they made a discovery in Ecuador and the stock was at 20 cents. I bought it at $1.80 because the holes were drilled were pretty substantial. I asked some industry experts, because I was still relatively new in the business, if this was a real discovery or not, because the stock had moved from 20 cents to $1.80 and a week later it was at $3 and change. And they said, oh, Ivan, maybe it's not, you never know. And I got cold feet. I took my, double on my investment, which was pretty substantial for me at the time. And then 9 months later, it went to $44 a share. And so that's why Ecuador, that's why I want to go into Ecuador, because I want those kind of opportunities for Coppernico. Sombrero checks all those boxes, but if I can add 2 or 3 of those to mitigate the risk and give us way more opportunity and possibly more than one opportunity, that's going to be something where, again, we can possibly create history with those kind of big discoveries and make those kind of share price performance.
Yeah. I just wonder if you just comment on the state of the exploration, junior exploration and mining market at the moment. And obviously you mentioned about investing, certain times to invest. I just wonder if you just give us an overview of the sort of junior exploration space, because obviously that's the space that you're in.
So if you took, me today and what I know and what I've seen, and I've just started buying again a lot of juniors myself, but if, I'm always going to be biased that it's invest all the time. That's everybody in the mining industry that's spending money, raising money, trying to find a mine is going to say that. But if you said to me today, you start a new fund, Ivan, and you've got, say you got $5 million to invest in a new fund, where are you going to invest it and when are you going to invest it, knowing what you know? I would aggressively go probably halfway in today on the entire amount. And the reason why is because a lot of us industry professionals, we're all comparing it to 2009, and we're looking at history and we're saying this feels very similar. And in 2009, our company Keegan, after 08, it was over $5 per share, went to 50 cents a share. But in 2009, in 14 months, it went to $9 per share from 49 cents a share. So we feel the financial system, the midterms, the electoral, the money supply, everything, and the scarcity and time it's going to take to make discoveries is somewhat comparable to 09. And I think it's where you pick people who've done it before, you pick companies that resonate with you. And I would do the 50% in right now. And then the next 50% for me would be November, post midterms. There could be a shakeup or it could take off, but at least you got your starting position. You can either average down or go from there. Now, anybody who has not bought in yet, this is an incredible plan, and I'll be very proud to hopefully be very right in the near term. If you did this last fall, you're going to be underwater on some things, in our group, except for Torq, or you'll be waiting for Coppernico to come to market. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm the perfect caller of markets, but in terms of what we have, it's the opportunity that's rare, not the pricing that you paid, and that has to be understood. So, I think from that perspective, pick groups that you have a track record, have succeeded before, they've stayed alive during this market, they're not hiding from the market, they're active, they're busy. Try to get the CEO on the phone and see what his plans are. And if they're ambitious enough, driven enough, you're in the right stage of the metals market. That is more than clearly the case. Your downside is time in most companies versus, the risk of losing the investment going down. Time is your worst enemy. No one can predict it. But when it moves quick, and you won't be able to get good prices when it starts moving because of the short covering and everything else I mentioned earlier.
Is there anything else that you've got in the pipeline that you can obviously publicly speak about?
Right now, you know what? No, just I would say follow the Torq discovery. It could make the global scale, and that's a huge statement, meaning the whole world might recognize what's being found there. I would follow that closely. I would follow what I'm going to do with Coppernico, but just follow the Torq discovery, independent of myself being one of the largest shareholders of the company with my partners. It's performing. It's got a discovery that's underway potentially here, and it will educate you a lot, and it will give you one of the few opportunities to do really well. And no, I think remember that metal prices, particularly silver, gold, they're very, very reactionary to the price of the equities and the performance of the equities. The news may be fundamentally amazing, but you may see no movement for a while. And then one day you wake up, silver's back to 30 and the prices are flying. And that's just how the business works. So it's better to have a position. And if you already own it, you have to pace your patience for it could take longer. But I think this fourth quarter is going to be real interesting to say the least.
And lastly, as a conclusion, just wonder what you're up to over the next sort of 6 to 12 months as a company, and obviously your group of companies. What are your plans for each over the remainder of this year going into next year?
Yeah, so from work really, really hard. We've got a lot of gas in the tank, and all the projects say to go for it. So in Tier 1 Silver, we've got a huge amount of results coming out in this next 45 days, followed by drilling. Do we have that big, crazy silver discovery that we think we have? We're going to find out. Is there a big copper discovery that could be a potential 100-year mine life underneath that discovery or beside it? We're going to find out. And the evidence that we're going to get is going to really set the stage for when we go and drill that. Fury Gold Mines, we've drilled some new things that are away from the deposits we have. We've got our fingers crossed, and we're losing a lot of sleep waiting for those results because they advertise like they could really be great. But tons of drill results to come out in the fourth quarter. And then secondly, our big investment, we have almost 80 million shares of Dolly Varden Silver, who's drilling one of our former projects. We sold them. They have a huge amount of results. So two different ways that Fury could really perform in the next 6 months. Copernico Metals, the one I'm the head of right now running, it's going to acquire a few projects, come to market, and it's going to be very loud because these swings are huge. And you'll see a lot of me on a lot of podcasts and a lot of videos because I want to say it as loud as I can because the opportunity deserves that kind of attention and the opportunities we're going to put into it. And then lastly, Torq is just going to keep drilling at Margarita, and then they're going to be starting to drill Santa Cecilia. And the last company that had 1,000-meter drill holes was Filo Mining in Chile and Argentina border. Torq's in Chile, and this project Santa Cecilia has a 900-meter intercept already by a previous driller, the person who drilled it. So the chances of drilling more of those is high. Are we in the richest part of Santa Cecilia? Is it way richer next to us? Are we up beside it all? That's the part where, history can be made. And why I point out Filo Mining is the stock went from $2-3 to $26 a share earlier this year in a very short period of time. Everything we're doing is big. Everything we're going after is big. It's expensive to go big, especially in a bad market. But we've weathered it enough with some of the greatest investors in the world that support us and got us this position. And now it's going to see which super lottery ticket's going to win, or do they all win? And we're going to go for it.
Yeah. Well, Ivan, really appreciate you coming on and explaining, obviously, the companies that you're obviously involved in and tell us the story behind, obviously, these exploration stories. And obviously wish you well in the future for this year and going into next year. And hopefully we will speak. It won't be another 2.5 years. Perhaps you can come on beginning part of next year and give us an update on some of those, especially when you've got some of those drill results. So be great to get you back on. If our audience wants to reach out to you, if they want to follow you, social media, whether it's yourself or some of your companies, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for having me on. And, hopefully there's no more COVID like there was last time since we spoke. But, I look forward to catching up with you probably late fall or early in the new year for sure. Because of all the things I've talked about, the answers are going to come to those speculations, right? The best way to get me, I'm on Twitter. Ivan Bebek 71 is my handle. You can find me there pretty quick. And then I'm also on LinkedIn, my first and last name, Ivan Bebek. I'm active on both. I write about the companies I'm involved in. I explain some of the news, simplify it, and talk a little bit about the direction of the companies from time to time. And then my personal email is ivan@copernicometals.com. You can email me anytime and ask me any questions you have. And look forward to hearing from all of you. And for those of you that are brave enough to take advantage of the opportunity in August, now with so much spring-loaded potential in the metals market, I commend you. And as a contrarian, that's where I've done very well in my career. And I wish you all very, very well and safe future. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you coming onto the podcast. And those that are listening, take away. There's a lot of things to take away from what Ivan said. Obviously, the companies that he's involved in, but also if you're looking to invest as well, have a look at the certain times when you should invest, and maybe now is the time to invest if you're looking to park your money somewhere. So thank you for listening. Please share this episode amongst others, friends, family around the world, whether they're in the mining industry or not, because it'd be a good episode to listen to if they were looking to earn some extra money, buying into obviously the mining industry, which is, I suppose, at the bottom of the life cycle, and seems to be only one way it will go over the coming years. So appreciate you for listening, and until next time, happy mining.